Hi, my name's Lee and welcome to my channel Cola Flipper. I'm a UK eBay reseller. I buy second-hand items at car boot sales and charity shops and I resell them online for a profit. Now, it's come to my attention, a lot of people have been asking about my solds because I've never actually done a sold video. If you want to see my sold items regularly, just look for me, Cola Flipper, on Instagram. But I thought it was probably about time I did my first ever sold video. So what I'm going to do is go through some of my more interesting sales from, say, 2020. So I'm going to start and do the first half of 2020 in this video. I'll do a second follow-up with the latter half of 2020, and then I'll try and start doing monthly ones ongoing. But if you ever want to see interesting sales as and when, just have a look for me on Instagram and I'll post them up every now and again. So I'm going to keep looking down because I'm basically looking at my phone and flicking through them, and what I'll do is I'll do a picture-in-picture thing so that you can see full screen what I'm looking at, and I'll basically talk you through it. So the first one of my early sales in 2020 was some Funko Pop Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I grew up in the 80s, loved the Turtles, and I've not really been one for picking up Funko Pops because I just don't know which ones are valuable and which ones aren't. But I'm a bit of a retro geek. I love stuff from my childhood, and I know these are made recently, but the Turtles were part of my childhood. So I knew that there was going to be some sort of retro type value to them because the people of my sort of age are probably going to want to collect them. Now these particular ones aren't made anymore. So with Funko's, it's called vaulted. With Lego, it's called retired. So if they don't make the set, it's a retired set. So that makes them more valuable. Individually, they could have sold anywhere between sort of £15 and £30 each. But I thought, as I managed to pick up an entire set, so you've got the full Ninja Turtles and you've also got Splinter and Shredder, I thought if I put them together as a pack of 6, there's going to be very little competition on eBay. So potentially, if there's less competition, I should be able to ask for any price I like, and hopefully I'll get a bite. So I put them up for 225. Not a lot happened initially. There was quite a few people watching, and eventually they were sold. I think they went to Italy via GSP, and I paid £20 at a car boot sale. Boxes were a bit scuffed. Some of them had a few little cracks in the windows, but even in that condition, which I very, very clearly showed in the images, still went for £185, so plus postage. So really happy with that. Nice little sale. Nice big sale. Next item I'm going to show is some clothing. So I, whilst COVID's going on, for the past year now, I've been working from my dining room, but before that, I work in a local town, and it's a commuter town, so we're only 20 odd minutes away from London, and that does tend to mean that we get some higher value items in some of the local charity shops. Now this particular coat that I've got was actually not from one of the town centre charity shops where I tend to pick up the higher value items. This was actually in a very, very small charity shop which was on the way home, so I can drive home a couple of different routes, and sometimes I cut through one of there's a council estate, and it's a little more run down and not such an affluent area as towards the town centre is. And I somehow managed to find a vintage Burberry trench coat. For those who don't know, Burberry is it's a fantastic British manufacturer and clothing house, fashion house. And Burberry trench now, if you go and Google their website, you're looking at somewhere between £1,200 and £1,600 for a brand new Burberry trench. Fantastic quality manufacturing wise, but I happened to see this in a charity shop. It had just been put out. The belt was missing. If it had the belt, I could have charged more. I put it up for, might have been 200, 225, and I took an offer of 170 in the end, and that went via GSP to Greece. It's a really, really nice piece. And one of the things that it's actually something that I've been putting together in my I'm doing a little series of videos at the moment, becoming a better reseller, and it's how to basically spot more BOLOs. Half of the battle with spotting a BOLO is being familiar with a brand or an item that you would normally be too scared to purchase, because you're not familiar with it. By learning and spending a bit more time on your education and learning about certain manufacturers, you have got a much better chance of picking up items that will sell for much higher values. So if you're interested, please do check out those videos. But yeah, a lot of people say, well, how do you know if it's real? And it's one of those things where you, having seen genuine real Burberry coats, I know. So in my local town, we've got some higher end shops. If I'm in town, every now and again, I will pop into one of those higher end shops, and I will go through it, and I will look at the Burberry coats. I will go and look at Aquascutum. I will go and look at all the different higher end brands to get that familiarity of what they look like, how the construction is made, just so that if I do see one out in the wild at a car boot seller, at a charity shop, I have much more confidence in, I'm more familiar with the brand, but B, I'm familiar with the way they're put together and the materials, and it helps me be more confident that it's a genuine item as well. So so yeah, definitely check out my other video series, and I'm going to be doing different categories each week. So it might be ladies' shoes one week, watches another week, glass paperweights, German pottery. I'm going to be week by week. I'm going to be doing different items and doing a deep dive and showing you how I learn about items, because I've realised that a lot of my reseller knowledge has basically come from looking at other people's solds, and that's just really pot luck on what other people are showing that they have sold. Where I'm going to be going a deep dive into specific categories, looking for what is selling frequently and what is selling at high value, so that if I see any of those, it will trigger a little memory, and hopefully I'll be be more confident when I'm out buying in the field. So next item, Brunello Cucinelli cashmere cardigan. Do I know who Brunello Cucinelli is? I didn't until I was in that charity shop. So as I said, I work in town, and I'll go to all the different charity shops over the working week, and there's one right on the edge of a really quite an affluent part of town. So I try and pop there at least once a week to see what's coming out, and I try and do it on a Monday or Tuesday when they're restocking. So I'm flicking through the racks of ladies' clothing. Men, do not be scared to look at ladies' clothing as well. Really high margins, and I could just feel instantly this is a higher quality material. I could feel it was soft, really fine knit, and it ended up was like, right, okay, let's have a look at that. I could see then from the label it was cashmere. I could see from the quality of the tags and the way that everything was put together that it was a high quality item. So whilst I didn't really know who Brunello Cucinelli was, I thought it was worth taking a punt, and I think I spent £7 or £8 on that. A Brunello Cucinelli cardigan will set you back somewhere between £1,000 and £1,600. So go and check out their website, have a look. Very high quality. Would I buy that for myself? No, that I've spent a lot less than that on a card before. But if you can pick that up, you know you can get a higher margin. So that went to the US. I think I had it up for 125 quid, and it sat for a few months. But that doesn't matter. It is sitting on a £7 investment, £7 or £8 investment, going to kill me if it's sitting there for 2 months, 3 months, 9 months, a year? Not really. But then the same amount of effort goes into listing that as an item that makes me £10 profit, and I ended up selling that for £87.50. So certain items, you know there's going to be a buyer at some point. Don't be afraid to hold and wait for the price that you want. So and again, I wasn't familiar with Brunello Cucinelli. Once I'd bought it and seen the value, I've gone through their website. I understand what sort of items they make, so I know what to look for, and I'm familiar with the tag in the back, so I know what to look for, all that sort of stuff now. So it's getting yourself familiar with stuff that you aren't already familiar with, and that gives you the confidence to make buys that you wouldn't always make. Next item, a Star Wars double-ended lightsaber, Darth Maul's lightsaber from the Phantom Menace. I've sold 2 of these now. This one I picked up in a charity shop for £2.50, and I think I'd bought one previously at a car boot for £3, I think. Really, really cool lightsaber, and it's one that when you press down these 2 buttons in the middle and flick it, the lightsaber ends flick out. So one of them I did an experiment because I sold them within like a week or 2 of each other. The first one I sold, I could see that they were selling for around the £35-ish mark on bids often. So I thought, well, I'll put it up for £40 on year offer, so a fiver over what the going rate was at the time, and it sold pretty much within a day or so. So this second one, I decided I'd try on bids to see if there was a bidding war. I don't think I did I start? I might have started at 99p, I can't remember, but it actually ended up going for £45. So for £2.50 out, that's absolutely fantastic. So definitely keep an eye out for the double-ended lightsabers. So it was from the 2011 film Phantom Menace. So really, really good sale there. I think Sam from Sam Sells Stuff recently had one, and I think he sold it for even more. So if you haven't seen Sam's YouTube page, do have a look. Again, very well considered YouTuber. He thinks about what he's doing. Very, very doesn't make rash decisions. So I like what Sam's got to say. So definitely check his channel out. Now the next one is Sylvanian Family's John Lewis department store. This was not a buy to sell on. This was my daughter. She had it for Christmas a couple of years back. Essentially, she's grown out of it and wanted to sell it on. So we had a discussion that, well, I will help you sell it. You've got to help me set it up. But then after the fees, you get the profit on the condition that you save some of it for long term. You can save some for short term, and then you can spend some of it on whatever the heck you like. Comparable sales at the time were going for around 120 with bad photos, 150-ish if the photos were good. So makes sense to take good photos because you're going to get a better price. The clearer you make your photos, the better the buyer can see the item and is then willing to pay up for. I'm not saying that you should spend ages and ages setting your photos up, but getting it down to a degree where you can set it up quickly and take good quality, sharp, well lit photos will make a big difference overall for your final sales. I genuinely believe that. Someone had told me once, take photos like there's no description and describe it like there are no photos. If you do that, you can't go far wrong. So this one we set it up, I think we started at £50 for the auction, and it had got to 150 on the morning of the auction, of the end of the auction. So we thought, well, I thought it might go for a little bit higher, but 150, that's kind of the top end of really what we're expecting. In the dying seconds, the bid just went mental, and it ended up going for £256 plus postage via GSP, and that went to Belgium. I'll flick through a few of the photos now so you can have a look, but we spent a lot of time. My eldest, we sat down, we got all the little parts out, sorted them out, and set up a little display to really show off the item at its best. Would I do that all the time? Probably not, but for certain items like this, it was well worth it to display how many of the accessories were there, but also the setting the scene to make it a more attractive object to buy. So that went really well, and it's sort of turned the head of my well, she's 11 now, but turned her head to understand that you can make a little bit of money on the stock, well, a lot of money, by making some sensible decisions. So yeah, I've got her into reselling a bit, and she's invested some of the money from this into booster boxes, Pokemon booster boxes, sold by Vinny, Mr. G. So yeah, I think I've might have some competition in my hands at some point there. Next sale are some Christian Dior boots. I picked these up. These were one of the first pairs of ladies' shoes that I'd ever picked up. And again, you might think, oh God, I'm going to look a bit weird in a charity shop or a car boot sale picking up clothing for the opposite sex. And I think sometimes maybe ladies don't have that sort of concern, because there are, I'd say, probably a higher proportion of there's a decent proportion of women who buy the clothing for their significant others anyway. But I don't give a monkeys anymore. I'll buy stuff for, it does sometimes seem a bit odd when I'm buying shoes and dresses all in different sizes, but I really don't give a monkeys anymore. These are picked up at a car boot sale, and again, it's that familiarity of a brand that gave me the confidence to buy these. Now, I know Christian Dior as a manufacturer, but I've never owned anything of theirs. But I've seen the shoes and boots in shops, not really paid a huge amount of attention to them, but I know the quality of the manufacturing. I instantly saw this, so this is like a quilted leather, and it's called a canage quilt. But I recognised that from the bags. Get up close and I could see the quality of the stitching, the quality of the leather. Unzipped them, looked inside. Inside the boots, they were fully leather lined. A cheap copy is not going to have always leather lining. Sometimes they will, sometimes they don't, but it's just looking at the stitching on the inside and the outside. Getting familiar with what a high quality item is can give you confidence to buy it. So there are times when you are in a situation where you have a split second to make a decision. You can't always get your phone out to do a double check, but you can have a look, and you can look at how something is constructed and think, right, okay, high quality materials, it's made well, I'm going to take a punt. If it had all gone wrong, £15, it would be annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But because I'm spending £100+ at a car boot sale, it's a small percentage, and I'll probably make the profits elsewhere. So there are times when you should make an educated guess. And whilst I wasn't specifically familiar with this particular boot or shoe, this boot in this case, I was familiar with what a high quality boot of this kind should look like. So again, at some point I'll be going through ladies' boots and a deep dive on what sell well at the sort of £30 plus, the £50 plus, £100 plus mark, just to give you an idea of certain brands that sell at certain levels and at what sort of rate they sell at. So but yeah, these Christian Dior boots, £15 out. I think I listed them at £225 initially, eventually dropped them down to about £185, and I took a £165 offer. So can't remember if they were UK or overseas, but where they sold, but yeah, did really well on those. Next, Alpine Star motorbike boots. I picked these up at the same charity shop where I bought the Burberry trench coat. These ones were a bit damaged, so if you can see at the top of the boot, there's like a grey felt. That was it was almost like black rubber was coming off it. It was a coating that had got degraded, whether it was in the sun or heat, and it was just sticking to everything. So I think that's why they'd gone quite cheap in the charity shop. So there's £7 I paid for these, and I had to spend probably half an hour or so trying to get all the remnants of this horrible plasticky coating that was just peeling off them. But I knew that Alpine Star was a good brand, so I was quite happy to take a punt at £7, knowing that I should be able to sell them for 50 plus. When I actually had a look at because they were a specific type, they were a race and sports type boot, and they were a different sort of construction, it meant the value was higher. So I ended up putting them up for £125 and sold them within a couple of days for £100 offer. So very, very happy with that. And that's one of the areas that I wouldn't say I specialise in, but I often will be vigilant for specialist type shoes. So whether it's motorcycling boots or even cycling shoes, that anything that's a little bit specialist, walking boots, that sort of thing will often command a higher price, because it's usually a an item that's built for a specific task will be built to a better quality, which means that they are quite expensive brand new to buy at retail. So it just makes sense that a second-hand boot or shoe or specialist shoe of some kind is going to be slightly higher priced to sell on as a used item than your bog standard boots or shoes that you'd walk about in. So yeah, specialist shoes and boots are a good area to have a look at, and again I'll be making in-depth videos on those at some point soon. And talking of specialist shoes, we're now looking at some walking boots. Now, I'd previously sold some Brasher boots before, and that is definitely a company to look out for. So these Brasher leather walking boots. Now these specific ones are Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is I think they're owned by DuPont, or they have the technology, and it's basically a waterproof membrane that allows moisture to go outwards. So if you've got your feet are sweating, it will allow the moisture from your shoe to go out to help dry your feet, but it's a one-way membrane stopping water going back in. So whenever you see an article of clothing, whether it's a jacket or a pair of trousers or shoes or boots that have Gore-Tex on them, that means there's a higher degree of waterproofing, and it's usually a higher quality item because they've got to pay DuPont for the I don't know if it's manufacturing rights or whatever, but to use their high quality item, because whilst there are quite a few different membranes which allow moisture through one way, Gore-Tex is the well-known brand. So Brasher, very good brand, and what you'll often find is that hiking boots, when they're sold on, you'll see they're a bit dirty, someone hasn't bothered to clean them, and they often look a state. If they're leather, you can give them a proper clean and a polish up, they look fantastic. These looked disgusting when I bought them. Maybe not disgusting, but they looked worse for wear. After a good clean and a polish, they looked pretty much brand new. So always check with shoes any of the eyelets to make sure they're not loose, because if they pull through, you can get them repaired and replaced, but that takes time and money. And then check the sole for cracks. So bend the actual ball of the foot to see if there's any sort of movement and cracking at all, because if they are, they're shot. They're just not worth picking up. But I bought two pairs of boots at the same time. I bought these for £8, and I bought a pair of La Sportiva, Italian brand, really good. So 65 for these. The La Sportiva ones I sold for 80 something, I forget, around 80 something. Good quality boots. So I paid 8 for these, 12 for the others, so tenner on average is kind of what I'm looking at when I'm getting high quality walking boots or climbing boots or anything of that ilk. I'm happy to pay up for them because I know I can get a higher margin. So yeah, 15, even £20, if I know it's a specific brand that I can sell for higher, I'm happy to pay more money to buy them in the first place. Next item, a Joseph Ribkoff snake print jacket. This is an example of where I don't give a monkey's what something looks like. If it's not your taste, don't think, oh, I'm not buying that, because I knew the brand was a good seller typically. I thought, well, it's gopping, but someone's going to want it. I think it was £7. I think so. Joseph Ribkoff, I'm pretty sure they're a Canadian brand. I put it up for I think 55, ended up taking an offer at 47, and it sold, I think it was sold within sort of 2 months or so. But it is just an example of, just because something isn't your taste, if it's a quality brand or a quality item that usually a quality brand, you want to make sure, but if it's you want to look at the construction as well, or is it fashionable, etc., and that combination, you can make it a better educated guess. So even if it's not your style, doesn't matter. If you can make money on it and you can make good money on it, it's still worth buying. Next item, a Burberry jumper. Now, I was in Oxfam, and what I like about Oxfam is that the Oxfam in my local town, they do not discriminate between the brands. If it's a jumper, it doesn't matter if it's Primark, Marks and Spencer's or Burberry, it's £4. That's it, doesn't matter. Other charity shops obviously have prices going up and down depending on the quality. So I'm flicking through. Again, the moment I touched this, well, that feels nice. Fine knit. Let's have a look. And it was Burberry. I could check. I saw the obviously the label in the back. Did my usual checks of looking at the different labels, the way that the construction and the way it's knitted and the quality, and you could see and feel this is a high quality item. So paid £4 for it. I think I had it listed for quite a while because I went high. I went up at, I think I started at 85 quid, dropped it down eventually, and eventually took an offer for 60, which I'm more than happy with a £4 outlay. So absolute banger there. Not often that I pick up Burberry, but the two that I've got have been very, very good money, and I could have afforded to pay more out initially and still make a good margin. Next item, this is a really good example. As I mentioned, take good quality photos. Hermes, fantastic French fashion house. Bags can be in the thousands, shoes can be in the thousands. There was someone on eBay. I have a set of saved searches with very, very specific criteria, with certain keywords, certain price brackets, certain little bits and pieces that I put in there. And when items come up for sale within those categories, I'll get a little notification, and these popped up, and they were a pair of Hermes boots, £130 plus postage. I then got an offer from that person for £100. They want to sell them for me for 100. I'm thinking, oh, they may not have noticed, but this is a reselling eBay account. So I then logged in with my other non-reselling eBay account, and they sent me the same offer. So it was £100 plus the postage. So I got these Hermes riding boots for 114 odd pounds. These are about £2,000+ new. I think it might be 2007 or something. It's a lot of money. Go and have a look at them. But the pictures were bad, but they were good enough that I could see that they were the genuine item, because I could make out some of the stitching. I could make out the stamp on the sole, and I was confident enough that they were genuine. And if they weren't, I could have sent them back as a fake item. When they came through in the post, they were the real deal. They needed cleaning and they needed good photos. So as you can see, the picture on the left is how they were sold. I've got a bigger picture there, and they were just poorly lit. There was a picture from the front, there was a picture from above looking into the boot where you could see the insole and see the Hermes stamp, and there was a picture of the sole. That was it, 3 photos, and it just said Hermes black riding boots, size 38. That was it. I went into a lot more detail. I took much clearer photos. I take pictures from the left, from the right, the inside, underneath, everything. So I use up my 12 photos, and I went a lot more in depth. So the Hermes black all leather tall riding boots, the UK size, the EU size. Jumping boots is a newer version of this. So they don't make this specific shape anymore, but they still do riding boots, but they're called jumping boots, and they've got like a leather strap and a special buckle to go around the calf. That's the only difference between them. I ended up selling these. I think I had them up at £4.50. And this is the biggest amount I've ever taken a punt on for a single item for reselling. So £115, and I was still in my first year of reselling at the time. And that's quite a lot to pay out on a single item, but I had the confidence in the item that it was legit. If it wasn't, I could send it back. I had the confidence in my abilities to clean them up, make them look fantastic, and take good photos of them and describe them in a light that would better sell them. So I ended up taking an offer. These went off to Australia, and I took an offer of £3.50. So whilst I might have had an outlay of £114, it was a risk worth taking, and the only reason I could take that risk is because I made myself familiar with the items before I buy them. So as I said again, I'm going to show you, I've got other videos coming up where I go into deep dives about what I look for and then how I research a specific niche, and get familiar with all the brands within that niche that will sell for a high amount. all quickly. Disney videos. I picked these up in a charity shop in town, and all their videos are 25p. So yeah, didn't hardly cost me anything. It cost £3 for these 12 videos. I think I put them up at 30 plus postage initially, and I eventually got an offer of 25 plus postage. Good margin. Would I do it again? I don't know. I'm as a part-timer, I don't have an awful lot of time, so what I'm trying to do is minimize the amount of items I'm buying, but the items that I do buy, I want to have £20 profit minimum, plus a little bit of wiggle room for negotiation if I can help it. So whilst I did get a decent amount on these, they also took up a fairly significant amount of space on my storage compared to other bits that I can store in the same volume, and they were a bit of a bugger to post because of the size. So I think even though there's only 12 videos here, it took it over the over 2 kilos, which meant I ended up having to go to a courier rather than the Royal Mail, which meant that rather than going to the post office I can walk to, it meant I had to drive to a courier drop off. It's just not worth my hassle. But there is money to be made in certain VHSs still. But I don't think I'll be picking them up again, but that's just my personal preference. There's good money in them, and yeah, you can do okay. I think this is the last one I've got now. So this is a men's Mendegilio Zegna shirt, or if you can't read it, it just says Zegna. So Zegna shirts, very, very, very high quality. I previously had a pair of shoes, Zegna pair of shoes that were $4.75 new. I picked them up at $8 and sold them on for, I think it was like $87.50. This Zegna shirt, again, you could tell from the quality of the materials. It was a very, very fine knit linen. Looking at the buttons, you could see they're all mother of pearl buttons. The stitching, the way that it's constructed, you could see it had a split yoke at the back, and the seams, the way that the stitching's done on the front to the side panel, to the rear panel, it's called a French seam. So silly little things like looking at the way that the seam is. If you're not familiar with a brand, but you think it might be a good quality shirt, looking at the stitching, looking at the way that the buttons are sewn on, looking at the actual buttons, looking at the stitching on it, on the placard at the front, all these little things can add up to just helping you decide whether something is a quality item or not, even if you're not familiar with the brand. And then you think, right, okay, this looks really well made. Let's have a quick Google, let's have a quick look on eBay, and that helps you then think, right, okay, that's a good one. So I paid £5 for this. Do I normally spend £5 on a shirt to sell on? No, I don't. I try and keep it a little bit lower than that. But when I see a brand like Zegna, yes, I will. So and again, it's that building up that familiarity with high quality brands that sell at high margins. So that is just a brief overview of some of my favourite sales from the first half of 2020. First half of 2020. I'll do another video shortly with the second half of 2020, and then at some point on after that I'll start doing a monthly roundup of some of my favourite sales, hopefully providing a little bit of context into what I was looking for when I bought them, and my decision making process with that and the listing side of things. As I said a few times now, please have a look at some of my new series. I'm calling it Becoming a Better Reseller, and it's just basically going along my thought process in how I research a niche or a category so I can become more of an expert in it. I may not become an actual expert in it, but it means I'm in a much better position in a charity shop or a car boot sale, that when I see an item that I may not be familiar with the name, I will have a better chance of knowing if that is a quality item or not. And more often than not, it means I've got a much higher chance of picking up a bolo where I'm going to make 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, £100 profit on an item, where beforehand I might see something, if I don't know that brand, I might walk past it, and that could be a massive mistake. And I've done it before, I've kicked myself, and my goal is to make sure that I never go past a bolo ever again. So hopefully you'll join me in looking at some of those videos, and it will help you understand that, okay, well, maybe I don't want to look at the same category that I might be talking about one week, but you understand the process, so you can do it and research, do the research yourself, and go from there. So hopefully that will, I've got one out at the moment. Apparently there have been some problems with the subscription, so people aren't always seeing my videos pop up on their feed. So I've been told that if you unsubscribe and resubscribe, then it'll come up in your subscription feed. So hopefully I'll be able to help with educating you on certain BOLOs, and we can all make a little bit more money together. So thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. My name is Lee, and thank you for watching me on Cola Flipper. Take care.